To Equinoxe Radio and Television on yet another edition of the program You and Your Health aired on Equinoxe Radio Multimedia. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Suicide cases have been on the rise in Cameroon lately, and one of the major causes for this rise is because lots of the victims are depressed. So then, how can we manage such situations? How can we help depressed victims? Answers will be in the course of this program. Let's go on the short break. I will be right back. Welcome back. With me in the studio is Dr. Mohamed Ihab Suleiman, a psychiatrist working in Boya, chief town of the Southwest region, and right here in Douala, in the economic capital of Cameroon. It is a pleasure having you on the program, Doctor.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
So today we are going to be looking at depression, and this is one of the major causes why we have been recording so many suicide cases in Cameroon. So tell us, what does it mean to be depressed?
Well, it's a very simple analogy that I'll express to the audience, so we better understand what depression is all about. Let us all imagine that we have a small mouse. We put this mouse in a cage, and then what you expect the mouse will do? The mouse will jump up and down, left and right, trying to escape. The mouse will do mouse-like behavior. Now, let's now electrocute the walls of the cage. What will the mouse do? The mouse will try to escape. Every time he touches one of the walls of the cage, the mouse will get electrocuted. The mouse will try again, jump again, try to escape. Every time he tries to escape, he gets electrocuted. After a while, the mouse will just give up. And that is the key word here, give up. After sometimes, even if you open the cage, you open the gate for the cage, the mouse will not get out. That is exactly what depression is all about, giving up. So what is the key word here? Giving up. Every time you try, it doesn't go through. Finally, you give up. That is, in a simple terms, the definition of depression. Hopelessness. Giving up. Why do it? There's no sense of going anywhere because I'm gonna fail. The same thing like the mouse. But yes.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
But when we talk about depression, there is a misuse of the word depression. Depression known to the public is not the same depression known to a specialist. Everybody easily say, I'm depressed. I am depressed. I'm not going to school today because I am depressed. I am not taking my girlfriend out because I am depressed. So the word depression is actually being overused. When I say depression, as a specialist, when I say depression, I mean totally something else. You may have the blues and you call it depression. So definition of depression by a clinician is totally different from what people out there, audience out there, know as depression. Okay? The cutoff point here, when can I say safely somebody is depressed? When you do not function. So we said one key word before, giving up. Second key word is function. Meaning what? If I claim I'm depressed, yet I go to work every day, I am not depressed. If I say I'm depressed and I go to school every day, I am not depressed. Not by the medical definition of true depression. This is just the blues. Everybody has his ups and downs. But at the end of the day, you function. So when I say you're depressed, you're no longer functioning. This is, I can now say depressed, and I can categorize which depression category you belong to.
So now,
yes.
let's now look at the symptoms. How can I tell someone is depressed? Someone living beside me.
Yes. We're not going to give literature. I'm going to give easy, simple terms
Exactly.
for you out there to recognize that you're depressed. Okay? Think about the mouse story. The mouse has given up, even though when the doors are open. He does not want to get out anyway, because why? Is no sense going out because I'm going to end up with the same way. That is giving up in life. Giving up in things that used to give you pleasure. You're no longer having pleasure. So giving up in those things also. You have a good relationship with a girlfriend. You're giving up on that. So giving up is the key word that defines depression. Okay? And giving up plus loss of functionality give me now a serious condition that I really have to look at. And you said at the beginning of the program, suicide. Yes, depression highly associated with suicide. For the simple reason, again, to make easy for everybody, giving up. You have given up on everything that used to make you happy. It does not make you happy any longer. You just given up. Now we're going to say later on, why would somebody give up? Yes.
Exactly. What can cause someone to give up?
Because you tried once and it failed. You tried twice and it failed. You tried 3 times and it failed. You try 100 times and it failed. Again, I bring you back to the first example. The mouse has been jumping up and down for quite some times and never succeeded. So you just give up.
Then now, is there a difference between post-traumatic disorder and depression?
Yes, of course. Post-traumatic disorder is totally different from depression.
Okay.
Post-traumatic disorder is something that the public in the Southwest and the Northwest live in every day. I'm living in the Southwest, especially Buea, for the last 8 years before the crisis started. So I get patients all the times with post-traumatic stress. Post-traumatic stress in summary is just like the name suggests, post-traumatic. That means there has been trauma that you have been exposed to. I'm not talking about your wife shouting at you and you call this trauma. I'm talking about gunshots. I'm talking about seeing dead people. I'm talking about blood. I'm talking about earthquake. I'm talking about something big that has shaken you so much that after years, let's say the crisis finish, and 10 years from today, you'll still get
memories,
the
sad
flashback,
memories, exactly.
the flashbacks of the event. We all remember what happened in the World Trade Center in New York. That was 2001. 10 years, I mean, how long has it been so far? 20 years? 20 years ago? 21 years ago? People are still getting the flashbacks of the event that has taken place in the World Trade Center.
Yeah, exactly.
By the same token, you know, the crisis has not been over yet. Inshallah, the crisis will be over soon, but those who suffer the post-traumatic stress will still get flashbacks even after the end of the crisis. Let me add one point. Somebody like me, a specialist, medical specialist, will I get the flashback? Will I get the post-traumatic stress syndrome? Less likely, because I'm just being immunized. Trauma after trauma after trauma. We see a lot of trauma in our daily life as a specialist, as a doctor, especially emergency room doctors. So you're being sensitized to trauma. But somebody who is sensitive, we're not all sensitive. Human beings are different one from another. I might react emotionally to an event, and my beautiful presenter here might not. So we are different in how we react to emotions. So it might hit me, post-traumatic stress. It might not hit her. It depends all how immune and how sensitized you are. It's just like immune system. If you've been exposed to too many traumas every day, less likely you get. The soldiers in the field, not all of them get the post-traumatic stress disorder. Some of them get, others don't.
So now, with the case of post-traumatic disorder, given that there are several causes that can lead to this, are these causes treated the same way? Let's say someone who is from a crisis-stricken region, who has seen bloodshed, seen lots of corpses, and someone else who maybe she has experienced, maybe her husband was constantly beating her in her home, violence and all of that. Will it be treated the same way?
Well, you mean treated the same way as depression?
As depression, exactly.
Yes. Pharmacologically, yes.
Okay.
We can treat both with the same drug group. We call it SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Do not worry about the medical term. Basically, these are medication to increase a substance in the brain called serotonin. And it has been studied that increasing serotonin helps in post-traumatic stress disorder and also is the treatment of a choice when we talk about depression. But I don't want to stop at pharmacology alone. Pharmacology is one of the ways we treat. Behavior psychotherapy is I cannot say, strongly recommended. We cannot treat with pharmacology alone. We have to treat with psychotherapy as well. We have to know the core of the problem. We have to jump into the patient's subconscious and see what is he or she afraid of. What trigger the event that you get the flashback. We have to treat the core of the problem. This is when we talk about hypnosis. Hypnosis is we relax the patient very well. We almost put the patient to sleep. We get to his subconscious, and then we change things around. Especially in phobias, we do the same thing. I can proudly say that we can easily do hypnosis. We can easily also do something called spiritual psychotherapy, because you cannot just imagine you are made of flesh and bones. There is also spirit involved, and when the spirit gets sick, you get mental diseases, and you manifest also with most of the psychiatric disorders. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, now, so what should depressed people do on regular basis that can help them? What are some of the activities they need to carry out on daily basis?
Yeah, well, before I get to this point, I just like to throw some light on depression is not all the same.
Okay.
Yeah, there is mild depression whereby you can function. Mm-hmm. But there is major depression, unipolar, major depression, or bad depression, whereby you cannot function. At the beginning of the session, we mentioned the key word was functioning. If you function, if you go to work, go to school, you do your normal daily activity, but have the blues, you feel bad, that is mild depression. I will not even treat. Some support, some psychotherapy will get the patient out of this situation. We call it dysthymia. You're in a bad mood. Depression is a bad mood, basically. So we get you out of this with some support. We snap you out of the situation you're in. We will not use pharmacology unless we have a patient that has major depression. Pharmacology, even though the class of medication that is called SSRI is a safe medication, there are so many of them. And now we have to choose which patient can get which drug, because it's not like one drug fit all. It depends on, if we have a patient, for example, a young patient, a young male or a female, that interested in having sex, he still have a sexual life ahead of him to perform. We cannot give him one specific drug of this SSRIs. We have to choose what drug to give him so we do not interfere with his sexual life. Let me add something else as we're talking about medication. Do you know that if you have hypertension and you take an antihypertensives medication to lower the blood pressure, some of those medication can cause depression. But this is a transient depression that can go once we stop the medication. So you have to know which drugs you want. You know that some of the antihypertensive, we're talking about hypertension, high blood pressure now, and you're taking medication for the high blood pressure, it can cause you depression. It can cause you sexual dysfunction. So those are all things that the clinician has in mind. He knows what to give and what not to give based on each individual case. So back to your depressed people, can they function normal? It depends on how bad is the depression. If it's a major depression, less likely he will function. If it's a mild depression, he's already functioning, but not at an ultimate, not at a peak level. His functionality is, ups and down, and down, yes.
So now talking about the major depression, can it lead to a mental disease?
Major depression is a mental disease.
Okay.
Yes, but see, in our practice, we do not see major depression by itself.
Okay.
It's always with hypomania, mania. Maybe some of you do not know what hypomania, mania. Mania is hyperactivity. See, depression is exactly like the word suggests. Everything is depressed. Your mood is depressed. You're not happy. You're not laughing. You're not smiling. You're not going out like you used to. You're not functioning like you used to. Everything is down. That's what depression means. Everything is depressed. You're not there. And we relate that to the decrease of a substance called serotonin. Mainly serotonin. There are other substances as well that goes low, but serotonin is the most important neurotransmitter that goes down in cases of depression. That's why the SSRI, which is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, will raise that serotonin back up. So we put the pharmacology back in place and you function. But like I said, pharmacology cannot do it alone. You need psychotherapy. You need to hit the cause, to recognize the cause. Why is this patient depressed? And then once we recognize the cause, we go into the patient's subconscious and we rewire things. So the patient has no longer the cause that yet make them depressed. Let me elaborate, can I?
We are left to just few minutes.
Okay.
And so I want you to, I think just 1 minute.
Okay.
I want you to tell us, how can we prevent ourselves from being depressed, especially these people living in the northwest and southwest regions who are seeing a lot of violence and all of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's very difficult for somebody who exposed to stress every day to tell them, okay, do not be depressed.
Exactly.
It's not like a magic word. You cannot. But adaptation. Some people cannot just leave. Some people just have to adapt to the new situation they're in, and they have to be satisfied with the new condition. It's very difficult to say. Let's say I'm in an area where I have lack of, supply of everything. I hear violence around me every day. But at the end of the day, I don't want to just give up. I want to adapt to the new situation, make my new environment, and be satisfied, accept the new condition. See, it's all about satisfaction. It's all about acceptance. If I accept, and it doesn't matter southwest, northwest, or any place on earth.
You find yourself.
Any place you find yourself. If you are accepting your situation and you are motivated to better your situation to a better environment, better position, better place, you are satisfied. Once we reach a good level of satisfaction, there is no depression. Otherwise, if we fail to accept, if we fail to be satisfied with what we are, what we do, we can never succeed. If you are a millionaire and you're not satisfied with what you have, you are depressed. Not in the sense that, clinical depression, but, yeah.
Okay, and that's where we are going to be ending today's edition of the program. There's one thing I have learned today is that I should not give up. And I think that's something all of us have to learn about. That was Dr. Mohammed Ihab Suleiman, a psychiatrist here in the city of Douala, and he equally works in Boya, chief town of the southwest region. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe, and I received technical assistance from Ephraim Yemili. Have a lovely day in the company of more programs on Equinoxe Radio and, of course, television.